Hello everyone, it's Asate Games. Today I am going to compare Unity, Defold and Godot using many factors. I will be rating them from 0 to 5, with 0 being the lowest and 5 being the best point one can get, so let's get started. First factor is it free to use? Unity gets 1 here because unless you are going to use it for personal projects, it's not free at all. Yes, most of the developers will not make enough to be affected by Unity's payment, but since this is our goal, we should still consider it. Default gets 5 here and Godot gets 4. Both are actually free engines, but you cannot export to consoles unless you pay for a third-party company with Godot, so it's not as good as Default in terms of being free to use. Second factor is being lightweight. Unity gets 1 here as it's not lightweight at all. Well, it's not Unity's goal being lightweight, so it's fine. Both Default and Godot gets 5 here as both are pretty lightweight engines. Now let's see if they have enough features. Unity obviously gets 5 here as you can use it to develop almost any game you can imagine. It's a beast in this aspect. Default gets 3 and Godot gets 4 here. Both has outstanding 2D capabilities, but compared to Godot, Default still lacks many 3D features. Being easy to use, all 3 gets 3 here. In my opinion, in terms of difficulty, they are all more or less the same. They have different approach to the development process, but none of them are too easy or too difficult to pick up and learn. How much freedom it grants you over the engine. Unity is quite strict about it, so it gets 1. Default gets 4 and Godot gets 5 here. Both has their source code available, but Godot is more open to be modified and even some major forks going on, so it gets the upper hand here. Being cross-platform, Unity and Default get 5 here as you can use them to export to almost any platform without the need to use external help. Godot gets 3 here due to not being able to export for consoles. It could also get 4 since W4 exists to help with this. It requires the developer to pay a large amount of money, at least for an indie it's a large amount. So I think it deserves 3 here. 2D development, all 3 gets 5 as they all are suitable for 2D development and has many features. 3D development, Unity gets 5 here as it can be used for AAA titles. Default gets 2, you can use it for 3D but it lacks too much. Godot gets 3, it again could get 4, but what I have experienced with Godot 3D was that after the project size exceeds 8 to 10 GB, it starts to get slower and makes the development process difficult and slow. In terms of assets, all 3 gets 5 as all have their asset store and it meets the developer's need for most cases. If 5 was not the limit with the writing, Unity could get 6 or 7 as its asset store is the largest out of 3. This factor is being consistent through versions. Unity gets 4 here as it's an old engine and is stable between most versions, but it still requires some tweaking to be done on the project after importing it to a new version, especially versions 2 years or more apart. Godot gets 1 here as version change easily breaks your game and it has so many experimental nodes and features that will be removed or changed in the future, like tile maps, parallax background, and even navigation 3D nodes are experimental. I would give it 2 points if it was using a consistent language, but even the programming language it uses changing often, that's why it gets 2. Default gets 5 here as despite getting new updates each month, I was still able to import a 4-year-old project to Default without any problem and it ran immediately without any changes. All 3 has great documentation, but Godot users have it implemented in the engine and often uses, at least I do. So it gets 5. Unity gets 2 because I do not remember using Unity documentation more than a handful of times. Default gets 4, but it's not necessarily a good thing for Default, because the main reason for this is the lack of tutorials on Default, so you have to use it. The last factor is tutorials. Unity again gets 5 here, as out of all engines out there, it probably has the most tutorials and you can find a tutorial on almost all your needs. Godot gets 4. I don't think it's at the level of 4 right now, but every day more and more Godot tutorials are being shared, so it will surely get to that point. Default gets 1 here, as lack of tutorials can be considered as its actually major flaw. There is a few channels like Unfolding Game Dev that makes tutorial on it, but it's nowhere near being enough. This is the main reason I decided to make tutorials on Default, and I will start with a 2D top-down RPG and continue with both 2D and 3D games. So if you are interested in Default tutorials, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now the most important question here is, what is the best engine? Well, it depends, of course. If you don't mind paying to Unity and have an above average PC setup for game development, Unity can be considered as the best out of 3. But if you don't want to pay and still want to focus on high quality 3D development, it's Godot, though you will still need to pay for console export and 3D capabilities would not be close to Unity or Unreal. If you don't want to pay, neither for your sales nor for console export, and your goal is not making high quality 3D games, then Default can be considered the best option for you. If you select Default but are worried because it has very few tutorials, subscribe, as my goal is to answer the need of Default tutorials on YouTube. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.